Good evening, and welcome to our Wednesday night chat. We're coming to you tonight from the sanctuary of First Christian Community Church here in Annapolis. Our pastor, Dr. Karen V. Johnson, and our lead pastor is Reverend Glenton Clean. We thank you for joining us on tonight. I am James DeCosta. I'm the executive pastor here at First Christian, and tonight we have a special treat for you as we honor Veterans Day, which will be on November the 12th, in just a couple days. So we thank you for joining us tonight. Again, we're here tonight, and our special guest that's with us tonight is none other than James Diggs. James Diggs is a veteran of the Korean War, and he's also a prisoner of war. For those who do not recall, the Korean War was a conflict between the North Korea and South Korea. In fact, North Korea invaded South Korea during the 1950s, and that led to a conflict, and most of us have read about and been familiar about in our history, through our history or in our history books. The treat tonight is, again, we have the opportunity not only to speak to a veteran of our military service, but a prisoner of war veteran during the Korean conflict. Like me, most of you are likely familiar with veterans who served in the Vietnam War and even some who served in the Iraqi War. But if you go back to the Korean War, which occurred in 1950, in fact, the dates between 1950 and 1953, before most of us were actually born, this really will serve as a history lesson on tonight. We're excited to be here, excited to be a part of this. Again, my name is James DeCosta. I'm the executive pastor here at First Christian. Who will be moderating tonight along with myself is none other than Pastor Darrell. I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce himself, and then we will get to the beginning of our evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor Darrell Williams, and I'm also an Army veteran of 20 years and definitely stand on the shoulders of individuals like Brother James Diggs, and I'm very, very honored to be here on tonight and to be a part of this special occasion.
Okay, with that being said, as we enter into our questions on tonight, we suspect that a number of you will have questions and you may have opportunities to share. Some of those we will try to get to. We feel we've got a large body of questions here, or at least an encompassing body of questions tonight. And so before we get into that, again, as you're listening on tonight, there may be an opportunity for you to share. If you have a veteran in your family, whether it is a father, a mother, grandfather, grandmother, brother, or sister, anyone who served in the military, any branch of the military service, please take some time to shout them out, because it's not often that we shout these individuals out, but we want to honor them, not only tonight, but certainly during the course of this week as we celebrate and honor those who have served and some who've even paid the ultimate sacrifice. We thank you again for joining us on tonight. Pastor Darrell, if you want to start our conversation
Sure.
tonight.
So, Brother Diggs, first question we definitely want to ask you is, what was your branch of service, and what year did you join the military?
Well, the branch of service was the Army. I was in the 503rd Field Artillery 2nd Division, and I joined the service in 1948, January.
Okay. And how many years did you serve, Brother Diggs?
I served 5 years, 8 months, and 12 days
All right.
to the day.
Good. My next question, Brother Diggs, is what prompted you to become a soldier?
Well, actually, I was working part-time doing odds and ends at home during that time. And the jobs were so scarce, money was slow coming in, so I decided to join the Army. And I went up to the post office on this certain day, which was January the 13th of 1948. Walked in, told them I wanted to enlist, signed the papers, and walked out, and I was in the Army.
All right.
It was just that easy and simple.
Meant to be. All right. See?
One of the things we did not cover in our intro, and I think it's appropriate for you to share, we said that the conflict, that is Korean War conflict, was between 1950 and 1953. So for those who are here tonight joining us, what is your actual age?
My actual age now is 91 years of age.
Wow.
I was born in 1930, December the 2nd.
Wow. Please take that to heart. 91 years young.
Yeah.
91 years young. Still driving. And still moving around as Pastor Darrell and I, maybe even better at times.
No, I'm not better, but I'm
Not
still
better.
moving.
Still moving. Thank you, sir. Thank you. My question, so you arrived in Korea in the July-August time frame in 1950. Tell us what you experienced when you got there.
Well, when we went to we got to Korea, we hit hit Busan first. Got off the ship and went to Busan. By then, the troops who were in Busan at that particular time had been pushed back from where they were in Korea, in that area, and they were almost in the Pacific Ocean. All of that is in a letter written to different people. We noticed that the North Koreans had actually settled themselves, and they were still fighting the troops that we were there to rescue. And by the time that we got there, all we could do was just set up our equipment, which wasn't very easy, because at that time, the outfit that I was in, we had 155 millimeter howitzers, and we had to get them on land from the ship. So we were able to get on land, set up our equipment as fast as we could. It only took us a few minutes, and we were able to start doing what we were asked to do at that particular time, was to push the North Koreans back to where they were, away from the troops that were fighting them at that particular time, and we were successful in doing it.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, when your ship arrived and you got to shore, you were immediately cast into a conflict.
Well, immediately, as soon as we got ashore, we started fighting.
Wow.
And so what was that like? I'm going to follow up with another question in just a moment as far as the length of the captivity, but arriving so you traveled over by sea, by ship. How long did that journey take?
It took us almost a week, I would say, because we weren't sure where we were going. We were told before we got on board the ships that we were going to Hawaii, just for training. But then, after everyone got on board, we noticed that the ship had changed course, because the captain then told us that we were headed to Korea. Wow. As they say, the conflict had broke out there, and they needed help, and that's where we headed to. We had all our weapons on board, everything that we needed. All they had to do was just change course, and that's what they did. And we headed straight to Korea, thinking that we were going to Hawaii.
I imagine there are some veterans online and even some family members who could probably relate to that, in that once you are given an assignment, you board and you have one destination, at least, or told one destination.
Right.
And you, in fact, that changes.
It changed immediately.
Immediately. So can you tell us how long were you held in captivity in the prison of war camp? How long?
Well, actually, it was 33 months. It was close to 3 years. Excuse me, but it was 33 months, maybe a little longer. But in order to tell you about the captivity, I had to go back to the time that we were in combat after we landed in Korea. But you just want to know how long I was a POW. Was 33 months.
33. Okay. Pastor Darrell?
So, Brother Diggs, what type of mission were you on when you were captured?
Well, our mission at that particular time was to keep the road open. This was the night or the day before I was captured.
Okay.
we were under orders to keep the road open so that all the other units that was there at that particular time could get out of that particular area. And because the type of weapons that we had, we were able to keep the road open for them because we could fire our weapons, which was 155 millimeter howitzers. Our range was anywhere from 1 to 15 miles. So we could actually sit back from here and just shoot it wherever they asked us to fire our weapons. And that's what we did. So we kept the road open for everybody, and they all got out safe and sound, as far as we know. We were left alone, which was a 503rd Field Artillery C battery. That was a battery that I was in. So we did our job, and by the time we had got orders to move and try to get out, orders came down then that we were caught in a 5-mile or to 10-mile roadblock. And the road that we were traveling on wasn't as wide as this church. It was wide as 2 areas of these pews put together. That's how wide the road was. So we started down the road and we were headed to South Korea because we were in North Korea at that particular time. We fought our way from Busan, went across the 38th parallel, and was on our way to Kunari, and we went up. And we were headed toward the Yellow River at that particular time. So we tried to go down this road, this particular road, and at that time we knew that it was a roadblock. And our commanding officer was leading the way down this road. It was dark, no headlights, no lights of any kind. And I think that the fastest he was moving was approximately 10 to 15 miles an hour, which was kind of slow. None of us liked it, but there was nothing we could do. So we went down the road, then we got in the middle of the area where the roadblock was, which was, I said we had gone about 3 or 4 miles down the road, and we were right there in the middle of the roadblock. The Chinese started firing, which we did not know it was Chinese then. We thought it was North Koreans, but it was the Chinese who had come across the border. They had got themselves secured down in North Korea, and that's who was shooting at us. Not the North Koreans, because we had already demolished the North Korean army as far as we knew. That's why we had packed up and we were ready to go back to the ship and head home. But we stopped down there. We were stopped at that small area, and they started shooting at us. So all of our vehicles stopped. We jumped off the vehicles, which at that time they were pulling our guns. They were tractors. And everybody scattered, ran across the open field, which was about the size of 2 or 3 football fields. I say that so that you can get some kind of idea as to how wide the area was. And everybody scattered and just went to a safe area at that particular time. And then the shooting stopped from the Chinese. And then we got one of our sergeants called out and said, I want someone to go back on the road and bring the tractor back so that we can get in the tractor and find a way out. Everybody was quiet. Then he said it again. I want someone to go across the road and pick the tractor up and bring it back. Everybody's still quiet. I looked around, then I jumped up, me by myself. I stayed low, ran across the field, got in the tractor, and I looked to my left, and there was the Chinese down there in the gully, and they had the rifles pointed up to the sky. That was the first miracle that happened. I got in the tractor, pulled it in first gear, and took it back across the field to where our troops were. Nobody fired a shot the whole time.
Mm.
So when I stopped the tractor, which usually hold about 8 or 9 men, I said at least 15 or 20 tried to get on that one tractor. And I was sitting in the driver's seat, just like this, and everybody who could get on got on. They got in, and some of them climbed on top of the tractor, thinking that we could get away. I reached down. The gear shift was in between your legs. I reached down and pulled the gear back into first gear, and the tractor started moving. And then I looked to my left. And usually in combat, you do not see tracer bullets. Am I correct? Am I correct about that? They don't fire tracer bullets. They fire real bullets, right? I just happened to look to my left, and I saw a bullet headed toward me.
Mm.
I don't know what it was, but something made me lean back and turn my head to the left. The bullet went under my chin.
Wow.
It went out the window, and no one was hit.
Mm.
I started the tractor up. That was number 2 miracle.
2. Absolutely 2.
So I started the tractor again. I went about 100 yards, and by being dark, I couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Ran into a gully. The tractor went nose down into the gully. I couldn't go anywhere. Everybody jumped off. One of my friends left his rifle and took mine. And at that time, it was freezing cold in Korea. Not Fahrenheit, but Celsius. All of our rifles were frozen, except the one that the Chinese had. And our guns were frozen, everything that we had. So I was left with a frozen rifle. So I jumped off the tractor. Everybody scattered. I was left in a field all by myself with the tractor. Then I started running because I had no weapons, nothing. And I didn't know at that particular time while I was running that there were 2 Chinese behind me.
Mm.
Had I stopped, I would have been dead.
Wow.
But I didn't stop. I kept running. And the next thing I know, I had to run a good distance, and out of nowhere, by the grace of God again, which I didn't realize at that time, but by the grace of God, there appeared a haystack. What else? Oh, yeah. When I saw that haystack, I slid, just like you would slide into second base or third base. I slid a little ways past the haystack, crawled back and crawled into the haystack. And to this day, I still felt that I was pulling that hay down strand by strand. I got in, it was warm in there, and the next thing I know, it was 2 Chinese standing around right beside the haystack, as close as I am to both of you. They had bayonets on their rifles, pointed up again. And they were talking to each other, looking around as if nothing was there. So they looked around for a good 5 or 10 minutes, and they walked from side to side, and I'm in the haystack watching them.
Mm.
And all I had was a hand grenade. And I had my finger on the pin to pull the pin in case they came in closer, or in case they decide they're going to push the bayonets in the haystack. But they didn't. They looked around for a while, started talking, turned, shook their shoulders, and walked away. They walked back. I could have very easily pulled that pin on that hand grenade, rolled it out, and killed them. But I didn't. By the grace of God, that haystack was there. They did not see that haystack. To this day, I don't think they saw it. Because had they seen it, anybody in the combat zone with bayonets on a rifle, you're not going to, and you're chasing someone and all of a sudden they disappear. You're not going to stand there and look at that haystack and walk away. You're going to wonder to yourself, is someone in there?
Absolutely.
And push your bayonet in there to see what's going on. But they didn't do that. That's miracle number 3.
Yes, it is.
So they walked away. I went to sleep, just as warm as a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and woke up the next morning, and I jumped out the haystack. Everybody was gone. Then I saw a couple of my friends walking across the field close to me. And before one almost shot me because he didn't recognize me until he saw the uniform.
Okay.
So he recognized me and then called to me, and I started walking toward him. Then I stopped, and I turned around and looked, and the haystack was gone. There was nothing there. So I joined the rest of them that I saw, and we started walking. It was a machine gun nest of Chinese quite a distance away from us. They started shooting at us, but because of the distance that they were away, they couldn't do any harm to us. But we all started moving and keeping low just in case. It was a small stream, and we all tried to cross it. And I was the last one to try to go across that little stream, and I slipped. And I fell in the water. The water was only about ankle deep, as far as I could see. Because you could see the rocks in the water. And when I slipped, as far as I can remember, I got up. But the thing about it is that when I got up, everything that I had on was open. My shirt was open, my jacket open, shoes untied, helmet was off, everything. So I got up, and my toes were frozen, fingers frozen. So I got up, and my friends helped me to fasten my clothes up and tie my boots because my fingers were frozen. And then we left there, and I was limping a little bit then, so we left there, and we went about a half a mile, and we saw a little hut, the North Korean hut. And we asked the North Koreans if we could come in for a while and get warm. And the lady who was there understood just a little bit of English. And we went in, and we got warm. And then a few minutes later, she had gone outside, and she came back running and said, "You have to leave because the Chinese is coming." So we all left. Everybody scattered again. I'm by myself out on the field. I'm looking for weapons. So I walked around. Then I saw a gun, a rifle. It was an M1. I picked that up, frozen, no good. So I walked maybe a few miles, not knowing where I was going. And all of a sudden, I come up to an aid station, the first aid station. And there were American troops there. And the ranking man there was a major. He was a black major. So I joined them, and there were some troops that were inside who had been wounded. And there was someone outside who was not wounded. They had their weapons, but they couldn't do anything with them. So the major came out and looked around, and next thing I know, he said, "I want all of you to stand in line right here in front of me. You have any weapons? Put them down on the ground. Raise your hands and do nothing." We said, "Yes, sir." Being obedient, that's what we did. Another miracle. When we did that, he turned around and looked out toward the field, the woods, what we thought were the woods. And everybody raised their hands. When he raised his hands, as close as I am to that fella right there, like you see the white cords on the ground was weeds. We thought was weeds, was Chinese. They had their weapons pointed right at us. Had we done one thing wrong, we all would have been dead. So we just stood there and held our hands, and every bush and weed that was on that ground moved. Nothing but Chinese right there by that aid station. So that was how I got captured. One day before my 20th birthday.
Wow. Let me just say something, Pastor Durrell. I mean,
No, that's it.
interesting that you would share Miracle 1, Miracle 2, and Miracle 3. When you were sharing the one about the haystack, what that reminded me of was David when he was on the run from Saul and he found himself in the cave. In fact, and Saul was so close to him that he reached up with his knife and he was able to cut a piece of his garment off, right? Which was really a testament of that's how close God had him to in the midst of the conflict. But even in the midst of the conflict, he still spared him. And he allowed him to persevere in that. And so, as you were sharing, it just came so vivid, and it just shows not only God's grace and mercy in a situation like that, but favor.
That's right.
To a 20-year-old who's in a foreign land. So appreciate that. I just wanted to interject that piece.
No,
That
that was
awesome.
that was pretty much it. And you kind of walked us through, the whole capturing piece, and you also kind of led to the fact that, you weren't the only person that was captured. About how many of you were there?
It was a couple of hundred of us.
Wow.
Because after we were captured, we were marching or walking or marching, whatever you want to call it, for almost 30 days. It reminded me of the Second World War when the Japanese had the American troops on the death march. And we were walking every day in the woods, trying to hide from the planes so they wouldn't see us while we were walking, because they were out there looking for us anyway. Then when we didn't walk during the day, we'd do it at night. And you lay down to rest, and they get up, they kick you to wake you up. And if you didn't move, then as I had heard through the grapevine, then that's where you stayed. But I don't know how true that is, but that's what they said. But nevertheless, it felt like it took us about 3 to 4 weeks to get to our final destination, which was, believe it or not, right on the border, where we were close to at first, on the border of the Yellow River. That's where camp number 5, the prison camp number 5 was, right there on the border of the Yellow River.
And in the Yellow River, as I understand it, that's the area now we know of as the DMZ or the Militarized Zone.
No. The Yellow River is the area that separates China from Korea, from North Korea. The DMZ zone, which is the demilitarized zone, 38th parallel, was further. That was in between North Korea and South Korea. That's where they went. That's in Panmunjom, and that's where they went to sign the peace treaties, and that's where Brother Trump decided to go and stand and put one foot on this side and one foot on the other side. He was in North Korea here and South Korea there.
Yes, yes, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Familiar with that. Oh, amazing, amazing. So if I'm understanding correctly, then the portion of, again, on your arrival, when you arrived on the shores, the conflict that you were in there, that the conflict there was where was your initial assignment.
Yes.
Okay, that was your initial assignment, and then as part of that initial assignment, you all were moving. Were you moving back? Was your goal to find your way back to South Korea?
Well, we started in South Korea.
Right.
Busan is in South Korea, and that's where we landed, in South Korea, and that's where we started. We started pushing the enemy back from South Korea north.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you pushed them back north, and then as part of that pushing them back, everyone was able to get out who you were protecting, right? You were protecting them, and they were able
This
to.
was before we got caught in the roadblock.
Before you got caught in the
Before
roadblock.
we got caught in the roadblock. This was when we just landed in Korea.
Okay.
And then our job then was to help the other units that were there. Now, the first unit that was there was the 24th Infantry Division, which was stationed in Japan at that time. They were the first group. That was the first group that went to Korea. as soon as the conflict, or well, they call it a conflict, we call it a war. As soon as the conflict broke out, they were the first. That was the first unit to go there.
Okay.
That's the 24th Infantry Division, which was attached to the 8th Army. As a matter of fact, every unit that went to Korea, even our unit, which was the 503rd Field Artillery, the 2nd Division, we were also attached to the 8th Army. We were all under the 8th Army when we got there.
Was your unit integrated or
No.
was not integrated?
No,
Okay.
No, our unit was all black.
All black.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And we did such I think was a terrific job that we were #1 on the hit list for North Korea and the Chinese. They tried their best to get us, but they couldn't. Because when we were anywhere from 10 to 15 miles from them, we were able to hit them and do damage. And then we'd move, and they couldn't find us where we were. See? We had what you would call a forward observer.
I see.
We had a couple of men miles ahead of us, but within shooting range of our 155.
I see. I see.
And they would tell us what to do, what the range is, and what type of shells to fire. We probably fire HE, which is high explosive. We put the head on there, on the shell, load it in, and then he would give us the direction in which to fire.
The coordinates.
The coordinates, right. And we would fire 3 rounds. That's why we were #1 on the hit list. Sometimes the first round would be too far. The second round would be too close. I mean, too short. But the third round would go in your hip pocket.
Oh, wow. Wow. So the forward-looking ones sort of remind me of Joshua and Caleb, right? They do the recon. They're out there looking for the enemy, if you would, right? In this case, and that not only do they look for them, they spot them and then give you the coordinates, and then
That's
you
right.
use the coordinates to fire your howitzer.
That's right. The distance, sometimes it's 10 miles away. We sitting over in Eastport, and we have to fire somewhere close to Arnold.
Wow, wow! You know, you can't. It's hard to phantom that there's that level of artillery that can fire up to 15 miles.
You know,
away.
actually, before we left Korea, they had other artillery units there with larger weapons, with larger artillery shells and so forth, that fired further than that.
Further than to 15
Yeah,
miles.
further than the ones that we had. But right now, the one that they're sending to, what's the country's name that they're?
Ukraine?
Ukraine. They're sending 155 to Ukraine. Matter of fact, they already sent them to Ukraine. And that was a big help to them.
Okay. Okay. In their conflict with the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Services.
Good. So now you're captured. You're in the POW camp. What was a typical day like in the POW camp?
Well, it started off by, they were trying to indoctrinate us and change us from regular citizens, or troops rather, or real citizens, to communists. They would have us sit in groups of maybe 8 or 10 men, and they would have 1 or 2 Chinese sit in the middle to talk to us, and try to indoctrinate us and get us to understand their way of living and doing things, and hopefully try to get us to change our way of living and thinking. That was their way of trying to indoctrinate us so that we could become communists. And that's what they did for at least 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years they did that. As a matter of fact, they told some of us that if you start living like we live now and do what we do, you can go back to China with us and marry a Chinese woman. Some of them were crazed up and they did it. But they didn't like it, so they came back.
They came back. Yeah.
They didn't stay long, they came
Didn't
back.
stay long.
I don't know who they were, but that's down through the grapevine again.
I
That
see.
some of them went along with it, but then 99% of them did not go. No, they didn't go. But what we did in the group that I was with, we all decided to go along with the program, just for the heck of it. We said, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to pretend that they have done their job and indoctrinated us, and whatever they want us to do, we will pretend that we will do it. And that's what we did for almost a year, and they went along with it, thinking that everything was okay with them and with us. So as far as they were concerned, we were communists, but we knew better. See?
Better.
Yeah. But you could tell when things had changed, because at that particular time they were also doing the peace talk. And when things were going along good for them, they would treat us better. When things went bad, they would treat us bad. But nevertheless, no matter how they treated you, you never knew from day to day if you were going to live or die. That's the bad part about being a POW. No matter how they treated you, they could treat you good today, bad tomorrow. But it's hard to believe that during the whole time that I was in that POW camp, I never felt scared. I had no fear whatsoever. And why, I don't know. But to this day, I do know that God was on my side the whole time.
That's powerful.
I had no fear of being there. I was just there, just another day come, another day gone.
And so, on those typical days, that went on every day. That is the indoctrination. They were doing that.
Yes.
7 days a week.
Of course, they when things were going along smooth, they would give us a basketball, and we'd go out there and play basketball or baseball, something like that. Or they would take us down to the Yellow River, and we'd go down there and swim, or take a bath or something like that in the river. But that was about it. That was about it. Food-wise, they would give us millet, barley, and rice.
So barley and rice, I'm familiar. What's the
Millet, which is bird food,
bird food?
barley, and rice. Rice you probably get maybe once or twice a week. Then if they gave you meat, they would kill a pig or a hog and cook them the same day, and you have it for dinner maybe once a month or so forth. Wow. But that's about it. And I remember one time when my teeth was giving me, my gums were giving me trouble. And that's when I didn't realize that my gum was starting to separate from my teeth at that particular time. Plus I was suffering from malnutrition. And I didn't realize it. I was losing weight, and gum separated from my teeth. And I went to the Chinese one time. He was one of the officers there. I said, my gums are hurting. Is there anything that you can do for me? His answer was, put a hot brick on your lips and go back. You'll be okay. See, that's what I'm talking about, the treatment.
That's the treatment.
Something had been going wrong at Pam and John, the peace talk.
Yes. 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 And so that was the side of the treatment that was more harsh because things weren't going well in the peace talks.
But that's where it was. And of course, when we first got to the POW camp, I noticed one thing that separated the black from the whites. Just like right here in America.
Yes.
you didn't belong together.
Mm.
And they're separated by country also.
Mm.
The Americans we were in the first company, and next to us was British. But they weren't allowed to come over there with us, and we weren't allowed to go over there with them. Different countries. And all around there, everything was different.
But they didn't allow you to associate or,
Nope.
So as you share again about that experience, and appreciate the context, because this is it's more vivid and real, I think, not only to me but I think to the listening audience as well. So on a typical day, I mean, how did you personally survive? You told us about what you were able to eat, and then the times you had at least some opportunity to play, to get out and play baseball or basketball or and the like, and they were doing the indoctrination. But how did you condition yourself, I guess, to kind of deal with a typical?
On a typical day, I found myself doing nothing but trying to stay away from most of the people who were there. And why? I think here's the answer to that. Even with your closest friends, when you're in a situation like that, the less you say to anyone, the better off you are.
Mm.
Most cases, the less you say, the longer you live.
Wow.
Because you don't know whether your friend or someone else is nearby listening to what you say. And it did happen one time. One of our buddies said something, and someone overheard him. And the next thing you know, he was placed in an ice-cold concrete bunker for what he said. But he didn't die. They kept him there for just about a day or so. So that's why I said, when you talk to someone, you be careful what you say and how you say it and who you say it to. Believe it or not, I didn't realize until my wife told me a couple of years ago. We did not have a conversation about anything for 20 years. Why? Because I had that instilled in me not to say anything about anything to anybody, because I wanted to live. And that's the way it was. But I gradually came out of it.
Wow.
But that's where things are. That's where things went. And that was my typical day.
Okay.
I also had a friend over there who taught me how to play a guitar. And that's when I learned how to do that when I was over there. And we were pretty good friends. But then after we were repatriated, I lost contact with him. But
In our early days here at First Christian, you played the guitar, didn't you?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I do recall that. Yes, I
Yeah.
do recall that. So you learned how to do that while you were
While I was a POW.
POW.
And I still have that picture in my wallet right now.
Mm.
Have I ever showed it to you?
Amazing. I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've seen it. And again, this is a picture that you took while in the POW camp.
This picture was taken in 1953 when the peace talks was signed, and the Chinese knew that we were going home, and they had a Polaroid, and one of the men asked if he could take a picture, and I asked him if he could give it to me. That's from a Polaroid camera. Look on the back, you see the date, 1953.
Mm.
19. Yes, POW camp number 5.
Wow.
POW camp number 5.
Yes, I don't know whether you can get a close-up of that, but that's what it looks like. It's black and white.
And I have the guitar in my hand.
Yes, I noticed the guitar. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, Brother Diggs, in reference to kind of like where you kind of took us to with the picture and kind of the signing of the records, um, how many survived the POW camp, and are you in contact with any of them who survived?
Well, actually, for a true count, I really can't answer that question truthfully. I really don't know.
I understand.
But I can tell you that most of us, no, all that were there with me
Mm-hmm.
would have survived, but one.
Mm.
And the reason I say that was because we knew that we were coming home. We knew this,
Mm.
and we were in one big building,
Okay.
still in the prison camp, and it was raining, lightning and thunder. This particular day, one of the men was still out on the field, and he was walking real slow to the building that we were in. And we were telling him to hurry up and come on because it was raining. He took his time.
Mm.
He got in the middle of the field and was struck by lightning and was killed right there.
Mm.
He didn't make it. Had he made it, everybody in the prison camp with me would have made it home. That's why I say all but one.
Gotcha.
But the count, the head count, I don't know.
Okay. Gotcha. And Brother Diggs, once you came back, were you in contact with any of the others who did survive?
I tried to find, well, for a couple of weeks, yes, I was.
Okay.
But that didn't mean, that didn't amount to very much because everybody went their own separate ways.
Sure.
And for the past, I'll say maybe 10, 15 years, I was trying to get in touch with anyone that I could who was over there with me.
Okay.
And I couldn't. And every time someone asked me a question like that, I would say, well, as far as I know, I'm the only one left because I couldn't get in touch with anybody.
Sure. Sure.
Every time I went to the VA or to the doctor, the VA doctor, or any office pertaining, for veterans, and I did that for years, I would ask the same question: have any other POWs been here for you to treat? And they said, no, you're the first one and the only one. So what other conclusion could I come to?
True.
Except I'm the only one here. And that's what I kept saying until a few months ago. I met a fella at the vet center, which I volunteered to go to. And he told me he was treating one of the veterans who was in Korea with me. And then he showed me, and then he described him to me.
Okay.
And when he did, I knew exactly who he was talking about. His
Oh,
name was
wow.
Robert Wyatt. He lives in Baltimore. I'm glad you're doing this because if someone know Robert Wyatt, maybe they can get in touch with him and let him know that I've been trying to reach him.
That's good.
And this gentleman said that he was working with Robert, and he could get in touch with him, and if I wanted to, I could give him my phone number and
Okay.
address, and he would see that he got it. Till this day, I haven't heard anything because I called him. I got no response. So I don't know whether he's still around or not. I don't know.
Right.
I even met Robert's, or at least she said that she was his niece.
Oh, wow.
I met her at the vet center,
Okay.
and I got her phone number and address. I've been trying to reach her. No response. So what can I say except that I don't know of anybody else but him
Right.
because I haven't heard anything different.
Understand.
It's not that I haven't been trying to find him.
Right.
It's just that I haven't found anyone yet.
Understand. That makes sense.
So, First Christian, all of our guests who are online, you heard the call. Robert Wyatt is his
In
name.
Baltimore.
Lives in Baltimore. That's the last known address we have. If you can help and assist us in locating Robert Wyatt. He would have been a prisoner of war as well in the Korean conflict. Please, please, if you can help us, contact us here at the church, our administrative office. If the number is not posted, I will give it to you, and maybe we'll have it posted as well. But the number is 410-224-5788. Please reach out to us.
And it's not just for Robert White. It's for anyone who was in Korea with us at that particular time.
That's good.
I would like to see any of them.
So we're coming to a close now. We're going to be wrapping up real soon, but I just have a few more questions we'll try to get in here before we wrap up. Again, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate this. And I know the type of person you are, because we've had an opportunity to know you now for, I don't know, some 20 years or so. And you've always been a man of grace. You've always been humble. And you've carried yourself with distinguishment.
Thank you.
And so we really appreciate that. And I know even as we shared tonight, as you were preparing for this, you did not want the spotlight to be on you. But
No,
you,
not just me alone.
not just yourself alone. And so this is the kind of person that you are. And you in fact, as we were prepping tonight and in the weeks prior to, his primary concern was that there are others who have served, and he wanted to make sure that those individuals are being recognized for their service and for their contribution to this country as well. That's the kind of person we're talking about tonight, and so again, we're grateful. So just as I said, a couple more questions. How do you feel the prison of war experience changed you?
Well, actually, I'm a little more humble than I was at first, even though I was humble all along. And as far as being a Christian, I am 100% more than what I was. Because during that particular time I was overseas, I didn't realize at that time what was happening to me, even though it was happening at that particular time. God had his eyes on me. He was watching over me. And I didn't know it. Didn't realize it, even though he took me through those things that I explained to you that I went through. Those miracles that happened to me, he did it, but I didn't realize it until I came home. And I figured that it was a reason why he brought me back home, so that I could get married and have a good family, children, grandchildren.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing.
I have two questions for you, Brother Diggs. One last one from my page, and we have one from the audience.
I didn't hear you.
I have two more questions for you. One that I have prepared, and we have one from the audience. And they kind of go right toward the closing. The question I have first is, how were you treated when you returned home as a POW?
Well, when I came home, I knew nothing about how can I put it? I didn't know what I was supposed to receive from the government at all, because I wasn't told anything. And it took me years to find out exactly what it was that I was supposed to have.
Okay.
I got sick, and I thank God for my oldest daughter, because if she had not gotten sick, then I probably wouldn't be here today. Because she got sick, and her name was Renee, and she got sick. She had MS, and she was being treated, and because she was sick, everybody in the family had to be checked.
Okay.
And I was the only one who they found had something wrong. I had TB. My left lung had a spot on it. So they sent me to the VA hospital in Baltimore, Lock Raven, and they asked me one question after they checked me. Do you want surgery or do you want medication? I took surgery because your lung grows back.
Mm.
That was in 1958.
Mm.
So my lung has grown back by now, I think. And at that time, after surgery, they gave me disability of 100%.
As they should.
Well deserved.
Well
But
deserved.
within a matter of months, that changed.
Mm.
Why, I don't know, but it dropped me down to 20%.
Mm.
And for years on end, I've been trying to increase my disability claims.
Sure.
I finally got it.
Good.
But it took me a lifetime, you might well say. But during that time, my wife and I, we were able to survive. She was working, I was working. But during the time I was in the hospital, she had a load on her shoulders because she had the children at home. Right. I'm in one hospital, my oldest daughter in another hospital, Johns Hopkins. She going to visit me, then going to visit her, and she had the children at home. See, so she did a good job. But and it's greatly appreciated, even though I don't show it sometimes, but I do. And as far as being treated like I was supposed to be treated, my treatment as far as my friends are concerned were good.
Good.
But as far as being treated the way I was supposed to be treated, as far as getting my claim and everything else done like I was supposed to, nothing was ever said to me about it. Nothing. Even though I was asking questions, trying to find out what I can get, what I can have, what I can't have. Because when they discharged me from Fort Meade, they gave me my discharge papers and a check for $300. And that was it. And the way I got that was when I came back home and we landed in California, and I caught a bus from California to Maryland and went to Fort Meade. That's where I was supposed to be stationed for a while. And the first day that I got there, pardon me, of course my rank had been pushed up from corporal to sergeant. And I was walking around, and the corporal came up to me and said, pardon me, but you on guard duty. I said, I'm on what? He said, you on guard duty. I just got there I haven't been there 24 hours. So how did they get my name for guard duty? I asked him, I said, are you out of your cotton picking mind? He said, you don't even know me, do you? He said, no, I don't, but your name is here. No name was there. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what you do. You go back to your officer in charge and you tell him, I am not going to pull guard duty now, here, or any other time.
All right.
I left him there with his mouth wide open, went to headquarters, and told him I was ready for my discharge. Within 2 days, I was walking away from Fort Meade with my discharge in my hand. That was it.
That was it.
Hey, Brother Diggs, and the question we have from the audience is, how did you feel serving your country and having to deal with racism and discrimination?
Well, at that particular time, I didn't realize it was such racial discrimination at that time. Right. Because I hadn't been, even though I was maybe in it at that time, but I didn't realize it.
Sure.
So I couldn't actually answer that question truthfully and say what I did and what I didn't do, or what I would do or what I wouldn't do.
Yes, sir.
But I just kept to myself, and I had friends, white and black, and we all got along fine. So as far as the race was concerned, I really couldn't truthfully answer that question and said, I should have, would have, or could have done that.
Right.
So that's my answer to that question, because I really didn't know that, I really wasn't concerned that much about race at that time.
Gotcha.
I was trying to get myself squared away.
Absolutely understand.
Right.
That's a great answer, sir. Thank you. That's all I have, Jay.
So we would be remiss. We've kind of come to the end. This is a conversation that could go on all evening, and I just appreciate again your willingness to share with us. But we would certainly be remiss, as you mentioned your wife on a few occasions. We all know her, but you've been married now for how long?
I started saying she been married. It's my joke all the time anyway.
Yes.
We've been married now for 69 years.
69 years.
It'll be, yeah,
60. So just let that sink in for a moment. For those who are listening, 69 years, and she's actually here tonight with him. You know, most of the people I imagine watching is not 69 years old, and that's the tenure of your marriage. But Peggy Diggs, that's your wife, and she just celebrated a birthday a few months back, right? How old is she?
I'll let her tell you.
Yeah, we won't mention that part.
She is
She is 88.
88.
No. She's 2 years younger than I am.
2 years younger than you.
Yeah.
So she was 89 then.
Yeah.
So 91 and 89.
Wow.
What a blessing.
That's
What a
huge
blessing. And
I
having
think
been
my son back there. out there
having
too.
been in the institution, yes, I think we see your son back there as well.
Isn't he about there?
Yes, he is, sir.
Having been in the institution of marriage for some 69 years, what a blessing, what a tribute. Not only did God keep you in wartime, in conflict, in a prison of war camp, but He's done equally well and justice in keeping your marriage together for 69
I still say
yeah,
to this day, what I went through in Korea, He had a reason for bringing me back home.
That's right.
And having a big family like I have now, a loving family, that was the main thing. I'm sure that was the main thing that He brought me back home to do.
Thank you, sir. You have the final word.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for sharing tonight, and thank you to all of our guests who were with us on tonight. This concludes our Wednesday night chat. Again, thank you for joining, and we will see you on our next chat. Good evening.